And I think as a society today, we have to return to this idea of rationality, because we're losing the rational faculty in the public sphere. Subjectivity has overrun many of our spaces. 1 + 1 doesn't need to equal 2 anymore. Everything is so thoroughly subjectified. And so, we have to be an ummah that celebrates the rational faculty, and come back to the basic sensibilities of that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has endowed us with, which is al-aql al-rajih, the capacity to think and reflect, to cognate and to metacognate. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has endowed the human being with the ability to think and contemplate and think about thoughts. This is something that is distinctly human. And so, when Sayyiduna Ibrahim, we see in verse number 104, he tells us, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالَوْا إِلَى مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ وَإِلَى الرَّسُولِ قَالُوا حَسْبُنَا. This is verse number 5. This is surah number 5, verse number 4. And when it was said to them, come to what Allah has revealed, and to the messenger, they say, sufficient for us is that which we found our forefathers, our fathers, even though their fathers knew nothing, nor were they guided. So you see this discourse, this Abrahamic discourse of, he would tell them, come to what Allah has called, come to that which adds up and makes sense and is objectively true. And the response would be, well, this is what we found our fathers doing, even though their fathers knew nothing and they were not guided, right? And so you see that as an essential discourse, is that you have to be careful of just blindly following the status quo, whether it's in the quote unquote religious space or beyond. We're not just blind followers who don't apply thought and consider and contemplate, right? That we exhaust ourselves. That has to happen, and that certainly has to happen in the public sphere. That has to happen, especially certainly the young people who are listening right now. You have to be careful about just buying in wholesale to the narratives that are being disseminated in academia. When you go to school, you go to college, the indoctrination of children is a very scary enterprise right now. How targeted these young minds are, and how they're really looking to plant very specific ideas of what is and what isn't, what truth is, and what that there's no longer a capital T truth, and that there's many truths, and you don't have to fall prey to this idea of an essential truth, that everyone can have a truth, everyone can define their own destinies, everyone's a god, everyone's these are narratives that are in line with هَذَا مَا وَجَدْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاؤُنَا. This is what we found our forefathers, because this is what's standard right now. For someone like me, a lot of this narrative is it's chaotic, it's superficial. But I grew up in a different time period. Now you see the young kids who are growing up today, this is truth for them. And they don't see a spectrum of truth beyond this, because they're so saturated. Dr. Jackson talks about this, being saturated in this particular milieu. And we have to be, very careful about, that's why Sayyidina Ibrahim is saying, come to this objective truth of the divine. Say, well, this is what we found our forefathers, even though their forefathers, there's no rational consideration for what they're saying. It's just what they would say, even though they knew nothing and they were not guided.